Hello everyone. Do you know that Excel and Access play well together? You can easily move the data between both applications. You can create relationships, forms, and queries in Access. Then send the data back for analysis in Excel. Create pivot tables and charts in Excel. I am Nabil Murad, and in this training video, I'll show you how to import data from Excel and then create relationships in Access. We'll be creating multiple table query, and then we'll learn how to create multiple calculated fields. We'll create an action query, a make a table query, then send the data back to Excel. We'll visualize the data by creating charts, and we'll learn about chart formatting in Excel. We have a lot to learn, so let's get started. Okay, let me show you the situation that we have. This is my starting file, my Access database with one single table, the agent table. And then I have some other information related to the same project in two separate Excel files. So let me show you the Excel files. This is the first file showing some student information, a student ID, a first name, a last name, a street, city, state, postal code, and a phone number. Some of the students have an RESP balance. So in another worksheet, the student accounts, I have the account ID, the student ID, the agent ID dealing with them, and then at the same time the RESP balance and the open date. To get a loan, if you have an RESP balance less than $12,000, you are eligible to take an OSAP loan. How much is the loan amount? The loan amount will be a maximum of $25,000 minus your RESP balance. You must pay back this loan over 4 years at an interest rate of 3%. So we need to find out who is eligible to take this loan. Anyone having an RESP balance of $12,000 or less is eligible to an OSAP loan. We need to calculate the loan amount, and then we need to calculate how much will be the monthly payment for each student if eligible to take this loan. And this is my end file. Let me show you my end file, although I'll be starting in Access, but my end file will be an Excel file that shows the names of the eligible student, the first name, the last name, the student ID, the RESP balance, and how much will be the OSAP loan if eligible, and how much will be the monthly payment for each student. Also, we represented all this data by a bar chart, and on this bar chart we applied some nice formatting and a nice picture in the background of this chart. Let's see how we create all that. Let's start together. Here is my Access database having one single table. If I want to explore this table, I could either right-click and select Open or double-click to open it. It's one single table, the agent table, but I do have some other information in two separate Excel spreadsheets, and I want to bring this information into Access as well in order to analyze all the data. And to do that, I'll go to the External Data tab of the ribbon. And on the External Data tab, I have an import group on the left-hand side. I want to bring data from a file, and this file is an Excel file, so I'll click on Excel. And here the first window of my wizard starts. I click on the Browse button to find the location of that file. It's on my desktop. It's in Calculations in Queries, and I'll be selecting the Student Accounts Excel spreadsheet. Hit Open, and then here it asks me, would you like to import the source data into a new table in the current database? Yes. Would you like to append it? Would you like to create a link? So I'll go with the first option and hit OK. And the second window of my wizard asks me an important question, whether my source data in Excel has headers in the first row. So make sure you check this box, and then here it shows you my data at the Excel end. And then when I click on Next, it takes me to the second window of my wizard. Everything is fine and all the data type are fine. So I click on Next. Here is an important step. I noted that Access added an extra column, an ID column, because in Access it's important to have a primary key field. So it creates that field as a unique identifier for me. I don't need that field. I'll be using my account ID. So when I click on choose my own primary key, the account ID becomes the primary key field, the unique identifier for each record. Click on next and we are done. I'll accept the default name and hit finish. If you want to repeat the import steps over and over again in case the source data changes frequently, so you can save the import steps. Otherwise, you can close, and here at the table, the accounts table has been brought into Access. I'll repeat the same exact steps for the second Excel spreadsheet. So I click on the External Data tab, click on New Data Source from File, and select the Excel file. I'll browse to the location of that file. It's the second table, the student table, and then hit on Open, and then hit OK to start the wizard. Make sure you check this box. First row contains column headings. Click on Next, and then click on Next. And here I want to choose my own primary key. It's the student ID. In this case, click Finish, and then accept the default name. I don't want to save the import steps, so I'll click on Close. And here are the three tables brought into Access, as simple as that. In order to create a query that analyzes data from multiple tables, I need to go to the Database Tools tab and create relationships between the three tables. On the Database Tools tab, click on Relationships to open the Relationships window. I need to bring the three tables to this window, so I click on Show Table. In the Show Table dialog box, I need, let's say, the Accounts table, and then I need the Students table, and then I need the Agent table. So after bringing the tables into my Relationships window, to position them in a logical way, I'll move the Students to the left side and the Accounts in the middle. That has nothing to do with the functionality. And I start by creating my relationships by dragging the student ID from the students table and drop it over a matching field in the intermediate table. Then check the box, enforce referential integrity, and hit create. The relationship is created. It shows one on one side, an infinity symbol on the other side. It's a one-to-many relationship. I'll be creating the same exact relationship on the other side. So I want to drag the agent ID and drop it over the matching field agent ID in the intermediate table, check the box, and then hit create. And here is the other relationship created on the other side. Now I need to save the relationship by clicking on the Save button in the upper left corner on my Quick Access toolbar. I can close the relationship window, and now we can go to the Create tab and create our query. So on the Create tab, I need to create a query in Design View, so I click on Query Design, and I need to bring the tables, the Student table, the Accounts table, and the Agents table. Here are the three tables. Let's close the Show Table dialog box. We need to bring some fields, so I'll bring the student ID from the many side of the relationship by double-clicking on the student ID. And then I need to bring the first name and the last name for each student. I also need the most important field, the RESP balance, because we mentioned that if the student has an RESP balance of less than or equal $12,000, so this student will be eligible to an OSAP loan. How much will be the OSAP loan? The OSAP loan will be $25,000 minus whatever the RESP balance is. So to find out if the student is eligible or not, I'll be creating a calculated field. And because this field doesn't exist in the source table, so I need to create it from scratch. So I click in the first empty cell in the field row, and then I can start typing in this box. But to make it easier for me, I'm going to right-click and open a zoom box. And the zoom box is simply a bigger view of the same exact cell, but it has the advantage of controlling the font size by clicking on the font command in the lower right corner. I'll make my font a lot bigger by selecting, let's say, font size 16, and then hit OK. And let's create our calculated field. I'll name my field eligible, and then I type a colon after the field name, and Access understands that whatever to the left side of the colon is considered the field name. if the student has an RESP balance less than or equal, then the student is eligible. So I'll be using an if function. In Access, we call it IIF. So I'll type IIF, immediate if function, if, and then I open a square bracket, the RESP balance field, and then close the square bracket by typing the field name in square bracket. That means Access understands I'm referring to a field name if it is less than or equal $12,000, and then comma. What do you want to do if this logical test comes out true? In this case, you are eligible to an RESP balance equal to $25,000 minus the amount of the RESP balance. So I type it in square bracket because it's a field name. What if the logical test that you created first, the RESP balance is less than $12,000, comes out false? In this case, you get nothing, you get a 0, and then I close the bracket for my immediate if function. This is my function. Eligible, IIF. If the RESP balance is less than $12,000, you get an OSAP loan that is equal to $25,000 minus RESP balance. Otherwise, you get 0. I hit OK to get this calculated field. And I know that this field doesn't have any formatting because it's not coming from a source table. So I want to format it as currency by clicking on the property sheet. And on the property sheet, I'll change the formatting to currency, and then close the property sheet. I want to look at my query at this point. So I click on the red exclamation mark, and now this is my query. Look at that. Those students having an RESP balance of less than or equal $12,000 are eligible and will be getting different amounts for the OSAP loan. I would like to filter this query. And to filter this query, I can filter it based on the cutoff I specified for the RESP balance. And I'll be doing this in Design View. So I click on Design View in the upper left corner or the lower right corner. I'm back to Design View, and I want to add my condition in the criteria row under RESP balance. I want to show those who are less than or equal $12,000. So it will be excluding those who are not eligible. If I run my query one more time, I just have these students, 10 records, who are eligible to the RESP balance. And now I would like to calculate those students will have to pay back the loan over 4 years at 3% annual interest rate. So how much will be the monthly payment? To calculate the monthly payment, I need to use a payment function. It's the most popular financial function, whether in Access or in Excel. So let's see how we create this function. It's a second calculated field that I'll be creating in Design View. I switch to Design View by clicking on the upper left or the lower right. And in Design View, I need at this point to save my query. So I right-click and select Save, and I'll be naming my query OSAP Payment. That will be the name of my query. I hit OK, and then let's go to the first empty cell in the field row and create a second calculated field. To do that, I right-click and select the Zoom dialog box. And in the Zoom dialog box, I'll be creating my calculated field, and I'll be naming it Payment. And then I type a colon, as I did with the previous calculated field, and I start typing the name of my function equal minus PMT. So I'll type minus PMT. That's the name of the function. That's the abbreviation of payment function. And the payment function requires 3 arguments. The first argument, how much will be the monthly interest rate, so long as you are calculating a monthly payment. I said that the annual interest rate is 3%, so I type 0.03, but that's per year. I need to convert it into monthly interest rate, so I divide it by 12. And then I hit comma. The second argument for the payment function is the number of payments or the number of periods, and this should be in months. I said that each student should pay the loan back over 4 years. So I type 4, and because we did it in months, I'll be multiplying it by 12. And what about the last argument? The last argument will be the eligible amount, the field that we created earlier, which is the loan amount, how much money each student borrowed. This is a field name that I just created, so I type in square bracket. The field name was eligible. And then I close the square bracket and then close the bracket for the payment function and then hit OK. And since it's a calculated field, so it's not already formatted, I need to apply formatting through the property sheet. You can either click on property sheet or hit the F4 key to bring the property sheet and set the formatting to currency. Now I can close my property sheet and then go to the Run button on the Design tab of the ribbon. And now I can see how much will be the payment for each student. That will be the result of my query. Now I would like to convert the result of my query, which is simply a query right now that I can close and run at any time. If I close my query right now and say, yes, I would like to save, and then run the query at any time, here is my OSAP payment, it runs. But in order to send this data back to Excel, I need to convert it to a table, and to do this, I'm going to open it in Design View and convert it to an action query. What is an action query? An action query is a query that performs an action on the result of the query. And among the action queries, we have one type called Make a Table, which means instead of having 3 tables, it will convert the result of this query into a new table that I'll be calling or naming OSAP. So let's create our action query. I'll open my query in Design View by right-clicking and select Design View. And here at the top on the ribbon, I'll say I want to create an action query, a Make Table query. Click on Make Table. And when you create Make Table query, you can give it a name. I'll be naming my new table OSAP, and then I hit OK. Look at that. Right now I have 3 tables, but when I run the query, I get a message box telling me that a new table will be created. So if I hit OK, look at this, a new table has been created. Do you want to save this Make Table query? No, I don't want to do that. So I'll be closing without saving. I don't want to save. All what I wished is to have this new table, the OSAP table. If I double click on it, I can see all the information. I can format this new column, the payment column. Didn't inherit the formatting. I can format it here inside my table, but you know what? I leave it the way it is. I'll be formatting it at the Excel end. I'll be sending this table to Excel. We learned at the beginning of this training how to bring data from Excel into Access, but now I want to do the opposite. I want to send this data to the Excel end, and let's do that by going to the External Data tab. On the External Data tab, I'm not using the commands on the import side. I'll be using the export side, and I would like to export to Excel. So I click on Excel, and here it asks me which table. It's the selected table. And it will create a new table in Excel with the same exact name in the same exact folder like my database. I would like to export data with formatting and layout, so I'll check this box. And I would like also to open the Excel file after finishing the export process. So I'll check this box as well and then hit OK. And as you can see, I'm done. It opens the table in Excel. You might remember that I told you that the last column, the payment column, is not formatted properly, and I would like to format it here in Excel. That's extremely simple. I'll select the entire column, and then I can go to the number group and click on the down arrow and apply a currency formatting. Alternatively, I'll be using the shortcut Control-Shift-4, and I'm applying the currency formatting. After doing this, I can see that 10 students are eligible to OSAP loan, and this is their monthly payment. I would like to represent this data as a chart. Let's go and create the source data in order to create our chart. So I need the first name, And I need as well the payment, two non-adjacent columns. I select them by pressing the Control key. After selecting the source data, I can either go to the Insert tab of the ribbon, and from here I'll selecting the type of chart that I want. Alternatively, I can hit the shortcut Alt F1. When I hit Alt F1, it creates the default chart, which is a column chart. And I don't want a column chart. I need instead a bar chart. That will be better for me when I write my labels. So I right-click on one of the columns and select Change Series Chart Type. And from the Change Series Chart Type dialog box, let's select bar, and I'll keep the first one selected and hit OK. Here is my bar chart. I need to improve the appearance of this chart, and I need to do few more things. First of all, I need to add a label to my data. So let's select the top row, and then we need to insert an empty row to accommodate our label. So I hit Control plus to insert a row, and then in this empty row I type monthly payment for OSAP loan. Now I can improve the appearance of this text. Let's bump it up. Let's make it like 16. Let's make it bold. Let's change the color and I'll make it blue. And then I want this text to be centered across my list. So I select all the cells from A to F. I could use the merge and center. I don't have a preference to using the merge and centers because it will destroy the structure of my worksheet. Alternatively, I have a much better functionality in the Format Cell dialog box, and I'll open the Format Cell dialog box either by right-clicking and select Format Cell. We have 5 different methods for opening the Format Cell. I prefer using the shortcut Control-1 to open the Format Cell. Because we are talking about alignment, I'll click on the Alignment tab, and here under Horizontal Alignment, I want to change the alignment to Center Across Selection. That will center my title without destroying the structure of my worksheet. When I hit OK, now although it gives me the same exact visual appearance, but I can still select each cell independently, and if you look in the name box, each cell keeps its own name. Let's go back to our chart, and I'll start improving my chart by doing few things. First of all, I'll increase the size of my chart by dragging the border of chart area from the lower middle sizing handle. I dragged it down. Let's reduce the spacing between the different bars. And to do that, I click once on one of the bars, and then I right-click and select Format Data Series. When a pane opens on the right side, what I need to do is to reduce the gap. So I drag the slider for the gap width. I drag it a little bit to the left, and now the gap has been reduced and it's much smaller than before. We also need to change the color of these bars, and to change the color, I click on the Fill bucket, and when you click on the Fill bucket, you have Fill and Border. Click on the little triangle to the left side of Fill, and from here, I don't want all the bars to be of the same color. I'll check this option, Vary Color by Point, and when I do that, each bar will have a different color. Let's continue improving the appearance more and more. So I'll close the Format Data Series pane. Let's say I would like to format the vertical axis, the category axis in this case. So I'm selecting the vertical axis in a bar chart. This is the category axis. So I select it, and on the Home tab, I can bump the font up a little bit. Let's make it 10.5 and let's make it bold. Now it's easy for me to read the names. My next step will be adding a chart title. And to add a chart title, I click on Chart Title. And when I see the box highlighted for the chart title, I want to put it in the edit mode. If you look at the lower left corner right now, it says you are in the ready mode. So when I hit F2, I'm in the edit mode. And in the formula bar, I'll type an equal sign. Whatever you have in cell A1, that should be the chart title. So after typing the equal sign, click on A1. And then when you hit enter, look at that. It brings whatever you have in cell A1. I will improve its appearance by basic formatting as well. I'll make it bold and I'll make it blue. And now I have a nice title for my chart. In order to make my chart a lot more informative, I need to bring the information here on each bar instead of having to look at my original source table. And to do that, I'll be adding some data labels at the end of each bar. To do this, click on the plus sign in the upper right corner of the chart area. So when you click on the plus sign, we call it the chart element. Among the different commands, you have data labels, but I don't want to position them outside the bar. I want to bring them inside the bar. So I'll click on this little triangle that pops up and select more options. What would you like to bring? Well, I'll be bringing the category name, which is the name of the student. Instead of having it outside, I can get rid of it and bring it inside. So I'll check the box for category name. I want to bring the value as well, and then I'll take the check away. Where would you like to position it? Inside end. And then I close the Format Data Label series. Because by default it appears in black, so we need to make some changes. Some of the names are too long, so the data label appears on 2 lines. So I'll be fixing all that one by one. So let's increase the size of our data label. I'll bump it up to 10, and I'll make it bold, and I'll make it white so it will be more clear. By selecting the white color, that's a lot better. But we need to make some changes right now. For each data label that appears on 2 lines, I'm going to select it by clicking on it and drag so that it appears on one single line. Some of the labels appear on multiple lines. Now when I resize the container, they appear on one single line, and that's a lot better. So I can see my data labels on each bar. Why in the world do I need to keep the vertical axis? Let's go and hide it by clicking on the chart element. From the chart element, I don't want the axis, so I'll take the check away, and my chart grows bigger, and that's a lot better. The final thing to improve the appearance of our chart is to make it like more impressive by adding a picture in the chart area. So I'm selecting the chart area, and I want to make my chart more impressive, so I need to change the fill color of the chart area. I can set a color, but instead of setting a color, I'll be selecting a picture. So I go to the Format tab, click on Shape Fill, because actually it's a shape, it's a rectangle, and from the Shape Fill I'll be selecting a picture. I downloaded a picture from the internet of a student, so I browse to the location of my exercise folder on the desktop, and in the exercise folder I'll be selecting the picture that I want to use, click Insert, and look at that, my picture looks great. The full tone of the picture is a little bit distracting, so I need to increase the transparency of this picture, and to do that, I right-click on the background and select Format Chart Area. It opens a pane on the right side where I need to increase the transparency of my picture, so I'm dragging the transparency slider to the right, and then when I close the Format Chart Area, my chart is a lot better. I can resize it. If you wish, you can drag your chart and position it over the source table. That will be the final result of our project. We brought data from Excel tables into Access database. We created relationships, and then we created a query based on multiple tables. And we created in this query 2 calculated fields. After creating the calculated fields, we created an action query that created a special table based upon the result of this query, the OSAP table. And after creating the OSAP table, we sent the result. We exported this table into Excel. In Excel, we analyzed our data by creating a bar chart. We were able to visualize our data by creating this beautiful bar chart, and then we applied some formatting to this bar chart. The final step in this project is to add an effect to each one of these bars. So I select them, and I go to the Format tab and say I would like to add a shape effect. So I hover over the bevel effect and make it a 3D bevel chart. And now my chart looks even better, and this is the final result of our project. If you enjoyed this training video, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next training video.